Hello everyone, this is Timothy Mark with Alexandria.
I hope everybody's having a great day out there.
Yeah, I sure do. I hope y'all having a great day out there. As for us, it was a busy day for us. As y'all know, it's been raining here for quite some time. And today's the first day that the sun's out, so I'll be able to get some repairs done on the mobile command unit that we take around with us. But today's episode, well, we're World Paranormal Research Society. The website's worldparanormalresearchsociety.org. The YouTube channel is World Paranormal Research Society. And we're on many different platforms, many different media platforms with this podcast. YouTube is just a small portion of where we are. We have a lot of listeners on Spreaker.com, and we have a lot of listeners on other platforms. We're supposed to be on iTunes and Tumblr. I know we're on Tumblr. I haven't checked out Tumblr or iTunes, to be honest with you. But in today's episode, we're going to have a special guest from San Antonio, Texas, Cosmic Eve, and they do doom metal music. And it reminds me a lot of music that would be played during ceremonial magic rituals. And so so they'll be calling in here shortly, and we're going to talk a little bit about ceremonial magic. Aleister Crowley, I wrote a book called Aleister Crowley. He did a lot of ceremonial magic. The book's on barnesandnobles.com and and Amazon.com. I prefer that you buy the book from Amazon.com, but you can buy it from Barnes & Nobles or Amazon.com. It's called Aleister Crowley, and it's by me, Timothy Mark. Do you got anything that you want to add to this, Alexandra?
Basically, ritual magic or ritual ceremonial magic has been around for quite a long time, and it's not something that I delve in it deeply, but I do participate in ritual magic in regards to preparation and preparing myself for different magical things that I do. So
I can't really hear you that great, but okay. If you could speak up just a little bit louder, that would be awesome.
I haven't I don't really go deeply into ceremonial magic, but I have studied it. As I've said before, I am a historian, so I do try and seek knowledge in regards to that. In regards to what I prepare for my magical circles, I do specific ceremonies. I've done ceremonies under the full moon. I've done blooding ceremonies for my rune set. So yeah, I'm familiar with ceremonial magic. Maybe not in the sense of high magic or dark magic. Mine is more on the white side of magic, where it is for cleansing, purification, and preparation in regards to anything that I'm doing in daily life. And when I do my rune casting, that's what I do my ritual magic on.
And a lot of ritual magic is used to conjure spirits, or to conjure demons, or to try to conjure angels. So it's very different depending on I think everyone who's done ceremonial magic recognizes the fact that there is a circle that you have to create first to do the magic. Am I correct?
I do what I call a magical circle or a magical space, and a lot of people use surround themselves with a circle of salt. We also have red brick dust. We're selling it on the website. You can also use red brick dust in the performing.
It's not. I think it's important to note, though, as you say, red brick dust. It's not just red brick dust. It's special red brick dust that's been blessed, and it's got other things mixed with it. But it's a red brick dust. When I say other things mixed with it, it actually comes from New Orleans, and it comes from a very special spot in New Orleans.
We obtained it ourselves, so we know when we did a ceremony. And it's actually mixed up with some oyster shells and some particular rocks from various locations. So it's very highly charged, magically very potent for any kind of ceremonies, protection ceremonies that you want to do. So, we all have our own tools in our paranormal or spiritual toolkit, and it's whatever that you want to use in regards to ceremonies and various rituals. Various cultures have different rituals, and they abide by ceremonies. Even the Bible, Jewish ceremonies everything has a ceremony, a place in history.
Yes. King Solomon himself did ritual magic, and there's a book called the Testament of Solomon, and it's not in the King James Version Bible. It's actually in the Ethiopian Bible. And the Ethiopian Bible, we've talked about it before in other podcasts, so I'm not going to go into it in great detail on here. But in the Testament of Solomon, it talks about the ritual magic he did to use demons to help construct the second temple. And so, yeah, that's that. And so, I don't know what people know about doom metal. It's a new term that I've never heard of. I grew up in the 80s, so I just heard of regular metal and thrash metal and pretty much hard rock that was considered metal. But with doom metal, it seems more like late 60s, early 70s reflection, doesn't it?
That's what it would have seemed, that particular time genre of that musical format.
Yes. So we're waiting on our guest to give us a call, and is there anything else that we can hit on ceremonial magic? There's just not enough time in the day to go into all the details on ceremonial magic, but if you do want to start on it, we recommend that you go to our website, World Paranormal Research Society, and buy our red brick dust mixture, and start there. Start using it there, and look at some of our videos on YouTube, and look at some of the rituals that we've done in the Somerville location.
We did a podcast recently on John Dee. John Dee did a lot of ritual ceremonial magic in regards to trying to speak with the celestial beings. So he had a specific ceremony that he did do in regards to invoking conversation with celestial beings. So really anybody throughout time has had their own format of ritualistic ceremonies, magical ceremonies, different faiths and different religions, and we welcome you to kind of explore those and seek more knowledge in regards to particular cultures. Even going back to, I know I keep harping on ancient Egypt, you're probably sick of it, but ancient Egyptian priests had specific ritual ceremonies. When you talk about the bog bodies, these were ritualistic sacrifices in regards to when crops were failing. So that was a ritualistic ceremony. When you speak of even Vikings, they had the blood eagle. The blood eagle is a ritualistic ceremony in which I couldn't even go into the horrific details that the victim would actually have to go through, but this was it was done quite often in Viking and Norse heritage, called the blood eagle.
Yep, and again, we referred to the Aztecs. They did ritual magic when they were sacrificing humans, and other civilizations. There's actually tribes in Africa and tribes in Cambodia that still practice ritual magic today. So yeah,
it's all how you it's all how you put your own spin on it, and a meditation could be your form of a daily ritualistic practice. You do meditation 3 minutes a day, so that's a ritualistic practice. People do chanting, people do any kind of the monks that are chanting. I mean, to me, that's a ritualistic practice on their faith.
And so if we sound a little down today, more so than before, it's because, like I said, this is the first time the sun's been out here in Bryan, Texas. And the sun is definitely shining today, and we have a lot of work to do on the outside now that the sun is out. So we got a lot of stuff to cram into this day for sure. And
talking about the sun too, sun worship is a ritualistic ceremony, ritualistic practice. So that kind of ties in to sun worshiping since the beginning of time as well, and various religions and various faiths worship the sun, had various ceremonies in regards to the sun. So every single culture through the beginning of time has had their own forms of ritualistic ceremonies that they practice on a regular basis, whether it be, even you could consider Samhain, Halloween, a ceremony or ritualistic practice as well. So it's always good to know. I mean, you can really think of any culture and flip through social media and see any culture and their various ceremonies in regards to the Indians did rain dances when there was severe drought. So that's a ritualistic ceremony in regards to a rain dance. And every culture, I even think that the ceremony of communion is actually could be considered ceremonial magic when you're taking your communion. I mean, I may stand corrected on that, but you can really dissect it and bring it down to the bare foundations on anything that you see is a ritualistic ceremonial practice.
Yes, so we're waiting on our caller right now. Hold on, keep talking for a minute.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking about ritualistic ceremonies, and I think the ones that really stick in our mind or really stick very closely is the Aztecs when they did the ceremony of taking out somebody's heart while it was still beating and then throwing their bodies to the side of the pyramid. We think of ceremonies that way or rituals that way, and I mean there can be good rituals, there can be bad, just like yin and yang, two sides of the coin. So it's all how you want to look at it. And my rituals are all positive. It's in regards to grounding myself, preparing myself, protecting. So ground, prepare, protect. And then various, again, there is for seasonal, when crops would fail, they did a lot of they would sacrifice victims when crops were failing. So there you go. I mean, through the beginning of time, we could go on in regards to, and I kind of want to pose this question to all of you. What ceremonies or rituals do you practice on a daily basis? Maybe you don't think you do, but I bet you really do.
Yeah, and we was talking about sociology class and psychology class yesterday. We were having a conversation on that. And one of the things when I took sociology class, when I was in the military, one of the things that we did was observe people's behavior. And we observe their behavior when they, like, say we go to the bowling alley, and everybody has, without their own knowledge, they have a little certain thing that they'll do before they'll bowl. And so yeah, there you go. It's so everybody has some type of little ritual thing that they do.
Or think about, a lot of people play bingo. A lot of people go to casinos out there. A lot of people will have a lucky rabbit's foot. They got to rub that lucky rabbit's foot because they think it's a very tiny, minute ritual, but it's something that they do prior to, and they figured if I do this little stroking of a lucky rabbit's foot, I may be lucky, whether it be bingo, whether it be any kind of game of chance. So whether you realize it, I mean, we all, even getting yourself ready for work is considered a daily ritual. I mean, you get up, you shower.
We're having a bit of a problem here. The caller, Cosmic Eve, is saying that she's tried to call twice. I have no missed call, no nothing here, and I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. I'm going to send the number one more time.
But that's just the power of technology. Sometimes technology is not as good as we think it is, and we have to just be mindful that technology isn't all the time what it's all cracked up to be. So we're talking again how everybody does daily rituals without even realizing. Even the simple factor or the simple thing of just walking your dog every day is a daily ritual that you do every day. And it may not be a ceremonial ritual. I know if you're a Freemason and anything into masonry, you do rituals for initiation. A lot of groups have initiation rituals or ceremonies. So prior to being a full-fledged member of a particular organization, they may have a specific ritual. I know.
Okay, hold on. I think we're about to get our guest on the phone here. So let's see. Now we're going to try and see if we can get Cosmic Eve on the telephone. So here we go.
Hello.
How you doing? This is Timothy Mark. Is this Cosmic Eve?
Yes, it sure is.
How you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Timothy in Alexandria?
Doing good. How are you?
Great.
We're doing real good. I noticed that Alexandria was looking on some of your stuff, and she seen that you y'all have something in common. Both of y'all actually like Thoth.
Oh, yeah, awesome. That's so cool. And you want to know what? It's so funny because I was just tuning into y'all's past episodes. I'm guessing y'all just put up the Dark Lilith one like a few hours ago or so. I was just tuning into that one, and it's so funny because the series of y'all's podcast, like the topics that you guys are going over, I feel kind of ties in exactly with everything I want to talk about today. So
yeah, that's what we were thinking when we were listening to your music. And again, I'm not too familiar with doom metal, but when we were listening to your music, it sounded like music that would be performed during like ceremonial magical rituals.
Yes, yes, that is the plan. Right now, I am a solo artist, so I do compose all of my music myself, and even do all the audio engineering, all the promo, all the video editing and whatnot. So it's actually like really awesome because I am forming a band right now. So I have imagined the theatrics of the ritual that is to soon take place. So, also growing up in theater, that's one of my biggest motivations to put on a good show for people.
Yeah, I had a question for you because I don't know if you're aware or not, but when we were researching your music and listening to your music, do you know that a lot of that music's for free on the internet?
Oh yes, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were aware of that or not because I found some of our stuff for free out there, and we had no knowledge that it was for free, and so we, sometimes people bootleg stuff, but you're actually aware that your music's out there and it's out there for everybody to listen to.
Yeah, it's actually kind of, I think, one of the amazing things about the digital world today is that, for me, I think people, even to get someone to listen to an album or even to listen to a shorter record like an EP can be quite a chore. So expecting people to pay for it as well whenever they're first discovering your craft, can be a huge roadblock. So, that's really huge in the underground, the rock and roll, doom metal, psychedelic scene is to, do some promo stuff, have your music streaming for free, available on YouTube and whatnot.
So was Ice Mistress, that was your latest CD?
Yes, well actually, the Ice Mistress EP, that one was back in 2015, which is, I'm actually continuing on that concept, but I did take a little breather, a little experimental venture with my past project, which I just released last year on Halloween, and that was, compared to the first project, which was very like fantasy, very epic style of storytelling. This one was a little bit more, like that Dark Lilith, Transylvanian sort of vampiric essence that, I wanted to capture, that whole graveyard cemetery vibe for people who are fans of doom metal.
I noticed that looking at some of your stuff online, you do have a lot of references to vampires and things of that nature. So that was definitely one of your influences, because I know Alexandria is a big fan of the vampire community as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to commend you for, I was looking at a lot of your stuff on Facebook, and I thought, what, this chick really has it going on, kind of a thing. And I think I have to commend you, because it seems like with your music, you're trying to relay a message. And I think that's what, that's just my opinion. I think if music can relay a message, and if you can incorporate ceremony and ritual into it, I think kudos to you, because then I think you're doing what you should be doing. And I've looked at the stuff about Thoth, and you had a something about tarot cards too, and I thought, wow, this, sounds like somebody that I could have a really, really in-depth conversation, and she would know exactly what I'm talking about, and I wouldn't be a nut job.
Yes, no, that is actually like pretty awesome because whenever I had first started practicing magic, I want to say maybe about 8 years ago, like exclusively like solo practicing. It was, very much like a closet thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Alexandria, but, even like anything such as meditation can be looked at as like, oh, devil worshipping, or what are you doing in your closet, or, that type of thing. So I had actually seen this other female-fronted band named Jex Bach, actually, and she was performing as a means to convey that sort of witchy ritual, actually burning incense on stage and like really taking it to the next level. Whereas for me, I was very much hiding that from my family and friends. And I was like, wow, what an amazing way, or an amazing medium for storytelling, and to, sort of project a consciousness that maybe isn't tapped into very often,
I think you've hit the nail on the head, because for me, this is a lifestyle. It's not a fad. I mean, I've been it's in my family, so I've been doing it for 30 plus years, and I really get tired of having to, like you said, hide in a closet. I think we should all be truly who we are meant to be. And I mean, I've had the great privilege to travel to Stonehenge. I've traveled to Scotland many times. I've done lectures on druids and their druid rituals and practices. And I think, since nothing has ever been written down concrete about the druids, and everything was just word of mouth, I think if you can keep doing what you're doing and be comfortable in your own skin and who you really are, you're going to jet right to the top. Because spiritual beings like you and I mean, if you can just be yourself, you're a powerful entity, or you're a powerful source, force to be reckoned with. And I think, we should no longer have to hide in the shadows.
It's so true. It is so true. And like what you say, you've been doing this for 30 plus years. So since the time that I began with Cosmic Eve, so it's been about 5 years. I would say in between that time to now, it has almost seemed like a fad that has, caught on fire. To be a witch, or, to be this, sensual sorceress type of woman. A lot of people are infiltrating as a sort of, like a sort of act. And so through, like, talking with other musicians, who I can, like, interpret their knowledge through their lyricism and whatnot, I've been able to, sort of, like, zone in to, like, an area of authenticity, which I think that people can feel that, whereas, using occult symbology, or, even dressing with a certain way, but that's not your lifestyle, that can, at times, like, maybe interpret the wrong sorts of energies.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because, I'm a tattooed person. I have 12 tattoos. Most of my tattoos are ceremonial, ritually based, and the looks that I get, and I mean, I'm just being true to myself. These are amulets that I wear on my canvas, which is my body. And I mean, I'm comfortable in my own skin, that I can say, this is my faith, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to wear it on my skin. And that's what you're trying to do with how, you're on stage. And I encourage you to further go into that, because there's a huge following in that. And if you can be true to yourself, if you want to burn incense, do sage or whatever, I mean, in our work, Timothy and I, we do a lot of ritualistic ceremonies in regards to cleansing, purification. When I read my runes, I mean, I go through a whole ritualistic process prior to me even touching them. So I really commend you, because you sound like you're a real genuine person. Because, you know, like on TV with Charmed and all these TV shows, everybody wants to join on the bandwagon, but you're a genuine person. That's what I sort of pick up from you.
Thank you so much. And, you know, right before I called in, I did go through my grounding and, you know, my clearing and everything, you know, just really being thankful for the opportunity to be on y'all's show. I mean, really, I feel this is right up my alley. I'm like full of paranormal stories. You know, I'm.
Well, that's what I want.
My family, they take me as kind of kooky, so.
That's what I kind of want to get to too. Is at what age did you first have your first paranormal experience?
Okay, well, I would say right whenever my spiritual journey began was right whenever I was about 20 years old. And, you know, I was raised, you know, without religion, so there was nothing that was forced on me. I didn't have to go to church or anything. I was sort of neutral, you know, just believing in earth and the elements. And whenever my spiritual path began was actually whenever I began experimenting with meditation, psychedelics, actually. And so whereas, like, a lot of other people might, you know, go to the party scene or, you know, go and, you know, do all these things with their friends, I was actually kind of in a solo space where everyone was very focused in on their lives, and I was very attuned to, like, what was going on internally. So I would actually, you know, smoke cannabis with DMT, or, you know, take some peyote. I was reading a lot about Carlos Castaneda and the Don Juan book. So I was really turned on to the whole, like, earth practice of, you know, these sacraments that have been used by these cultures for, you know, thousands of years to find wisdom and knowledge. So I began opening up my channel, if you will, whenever I started having psychedelic experiences, and even to becoming more delved into magic and finding out, like, how flexible reality really is, versus, you know, what I had just grown up knowing as concrete. Started, you know, people would tell me, oh, you better be careful with what doors you're opening, or this and that. But, you know, I was very disciplined, very connected to my creator. And doing everything was intent, you know, like Alexandra was saying on the previous episode, you know, just really having that intent and really trying to search. So I would say that in some weird way, my aura inadvertently began picking up a little bit of static here and there, which was started to become, you know, at times like hauntings, or, you know, just almost even to like a mild form of possessions, things like that, you know, I realized, okay, this is more occult, you know, kind of things, versus where I was coming in from a spiritual standpoint, you know.
Okay, so it's interesting you say psychedelics, because in your Transylvania video, it's a very psychedelic video. And when you were speaking of trance, you're talking about going into a meditative state.
Yes, actually, I was part of a women's shamanic drum circle there in Austin for a few years. And so, you know, our thing was we would get into trance through the drum circles. And so, you know, I'm very much a huge fan of, you know, hypnotic, rhythmic states in which you're in that sort of somnambulance, you know, sort of openness to, you know, what lays on the other side of the veil, or even like through our own imagination.
That's interesting that you bring that out, because I know my grandfather was a shaman, and when I was a child, in our culture, we went on a vision quest in the bush, and we went for a couple of days with no food and water, and that was when I was to get my spirit guide's name. So, you know, I was brought up into that culture of going into a particular state. We did sweat lodges as well, and there's still some people that I speak with that do the sun dance, and that's where you're getting into a real state, because, you know, the piercings on your body, and it's the pain that's taking you into a more psychic level and another awareness of different dimensions. So I think that's amazing. Drumming, chanting are very, you know, through thousands of years have been instrumental in taking you in tune with the divine, and no matter what the divine is to that particular individual.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing, you know, to be brought up in with that sort of upbringing. You know, I wish that I could have had that for me, you know, but where my path is right now, I'm very happy, you know, but I think that is so amazing.
I think as long as you remain positive in everything you do, and again, you touched on intent, as long as your intent is as you think it should be. I mean, as we know, spells and spell casting, they are words, but I mean, the power is always in words, and it's how you go about your intent. And I think that's amazing. That it seems to me that you're heading on your own. I mean, we're all spiritual beings on a human journey, and it's just where the journey takes us.
And you know what? I am too a big fan of listening to a lot of cultural music. So even to like a lot of the shamans from the Amazonian region who practice with the ayahuasca medicine. Like at times, like I will like just listen to, you know, a recorded chanting session by these shamans who. In a way, it's as if the plant has taught them these songs, which are pathways, like neural pathways, into the other landscape, where you can then, follow along with their groove and in their paths, because they're psychedelic warriors, they know the other side. And so, even into, like, myself as an artist, I would like to try to sort of get people to feel as though they're also in that sort of psychedelic trance, even if they've never consumed these things or ever will. You know, I would like to give that feeling to people.
I think you're heading in the right direction, because Timothy and I have listened to various songs, and I think you are heading completely in the right direction. And I mean, I have a fascination with graveyards. I mean, my favorite place is to sit in a graveyard, and I could just picture myself sitting in a graveyard, just listening to your music and just getting into an alter state or a zone. I think it would be just absolutely, to have that backdrop setting would be amazing.
Thank you. And you know, that is another aspect to my music. I feel, because I really want to bring on that visionary state for people, you know? So, like what you were saying, like the power of words and lyrics, to be able to, you know, paint a story before you. It's almost as if sometimes instrumentation can, you know, be really complex and very beautiful and heavenly. And don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel that can take away from the lyrics and, you know, the words or the message. So in my first couple of projects, I feel, you know, and even too in building my musical ability, you know, because I did start from, you know, just ground zero. I do feel like the music is like that backdrop, like what you're talking about, to, you know, get that trance going and, you know, sort of enter into that state where, you know, then the visionary aspect of it can then, like, take you to the next level.
I have a question for you, because we did a podcast where we talked about DMT, and you're taking DMT. When you take DMT, just for the people that's listening out there, can you describe the what you go through, the feelings and stuff like that, and how it affects you?
Yes, definitely. Well, I would say, it is not for the faint of heart. I would highly recommend anybody who's taking DMT to be guided by someone who has already, had experience, almost like, a shaman or a guide. In my perfect settings, I like to, make sure no one else is in the house, be in a sort of, quiet state where you can be serious, light a candle and an incense, give your offerings, and you can feel your heartbeat start to rush. You can feel your palms getting sweaty. It's just something about the essence that is contained within the DMT. So I would tell people, just to relax.
But where does it take you when you take it? Like, where does it take you? Like, what kind of things do you see?
I mean, every single time it'll be like an elevator door that opens and you won't know where you're going to be. You could even think like, oh, okay, well, I know the landscape of my mind, so I'll only go to places that I could create, whereas, no, you're kind of tuning into, like, completely different worlds. Like, for example, my very first trip was the most powerful because I was the most naive about, the profoundness that I was about to experience. But I was actually, like, transported to a never-ending, like, jungle where I was, like, running, moving aside, like, bamboo shoots with my arms, and, where my arms were physically growing tired. I could feel, the jungle soil in between my toes. Like, you're literally, like, in a lucid dream. And so, I mean, that can encompass, like, so many different experiences. There's a lot of research by Dr. Rick Strassman. He's actually the only person who's had, like, actual verifiable, like, medicinal type of research. But you can, delve into all the different experiences from those people. For me, I mainly, like, will experience, like, mandalas. I usually go to, like, my special place, which is, kind of like this green mosaic sort of geodesic dome where, it's kind of like my star base or something. But I would just, like, tell people, like, you'll never know what to expect. Every single time will be different. And, just be prepared, really. It's kind of like whitewater rapid, boating, or however you would say it. It's like you can just throw yourself into the river and, be tossed this way or that, or you can be an experienced sort of, person who can steer your way left or right and kind of still hold on to reality so that you can traverse those more astral planes with sort of consciousness,
Let me ask you this question. You have a song out called Cosmic Ghost. In your lifetime, have you ever seen a ghost?
Well, I have never seen one physically, but I have felt one. I've actually spent a lot of time out in the redwood forest in California, up in the Bay Area. So I was actually living in the forest for about 5 years. So I experienced a lot of creepy things out there. A lot of the cabins around there are very, like, pioneer style and, contain essences. One in particular, a friend's house of mine, I was asked to, house it for a week or two. and they had just moved in, and I was there too, even doing the walkthrough of whenever they had first moved in, and we were checking out the place. And it was beautiful, beautiful, surrounded by the forest, everything. But there was just, this feeling of, like, this anti-hormone feeling. And I remember looking out through the bedroom windows and looking at the shed and just thinking in my head, like, axe, like an axe. And during my duration there in the house, it was like I was sponging up whatever spirits that were there. They were trying to talk to me, and they were trying to tell me something. So, I started noticing a couple of weird things about the house, like it was almost like taking off my energetic imprint. But it was a feeling of, like, punishment, or, like, maybe a mother who might have been too strict or something. And, I was even getting feelings of, like, being locked in a room. There was a door in that house that had a lock on the outside, with scratches on the inside of the door, a little bit broken door or whatever. And so, I was kind of freaked out by the bedroom, so I would stay in the living room on the couch. And I would wake up in the mornings. I would hear the cupboards, opening and closing, not all crazy, but just like as if someone went and got a box of cereal or something. And I would hear chairs move around in the other room when no one was there. I would hear the floorboards creaking as if someone was in the house, like noticeable enough to where I was pretty sure, my friend's here or something, whereas nothing was ever there. And so, it was like I was kind of like the weird person, and so I just kind of like had a breaking point where I was starting to like go into a bout of hysteria and like extreme paranoia. And I think it was because I was losing, my vital essence by being in that house. And so I had told a friend of mine, I was like, hey, I really can't stay here anymore. Like, it's a beautiful home. I love it. Everything is great about it. But, hey, these weird things have been happening here, and I don't want to be here anymore. Like, that's the end of it. And she was like, oh, okay, well, let me stay here for a couple of nights. Let me see if I can, feel anything or whatever. And she literally told me the next day that, yeah, it was confirmed that I wasn't just losing my mind, that there were flickering lights, footsteps. And then as she started living in her home more, she started telling me that she would see, like, a little girl, like, in an all-white dress. And she could feel as if, like, the little girl wanted her home there all the time. And that it was almost just like a little siphoning straw on her shoulder every time. And so, I don't know, like, what kind of things happened there on that property, but the spirits there were trying to tell me something.
I think...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What I gather from what you're trying to say, and what you're doing, is that I can really say with complete certainty, like in our realm, we call people that the term that we use is that you have been awakened. You are truly awake, and I think I can truly say that about you, that you are like me and people like us that are truly awake, that you are sensitive, or you are open with your ceremonies and your rituals that you do. You have become truly awake, and that's why you're open to these kind of experiences and encounters. And I think, as you know about Thoth and Hermes, my book is going to be coming out very soon on that if you're aware of the legend of the Emerald Tablets, that it was through sound that the knowledge on creation and everything that Thoth knew, it was through sound. So I think it's really remarkable that your being a musician, that you have the ability to use sound and the word in the sound to give a message out, and through your experiences, I'm so in awe of what you have the ability to do moving forward.
Yeah, and Transylvania, that's the album that was released in 2017?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's so and Ice Mistress was 2015. So you're putting out an album about every 2 years. Then do you have a new album coming out soon?
You know, the next one will be the follow-up to the Ice Mistress. So the next one will be a full-length album that's a continuation on that concept, and it will be called The Frozen Celestial Wasteland. So actually, to go back into the lore of the Ice Mistress, I really created this album because, I wanted to interpret that dark Lilith energy and to sort of stand up for the goddess, which I feel, very much, sort of put on the back burner in our patriarchal society. So actually the story and the lore of the Ice Mistress is about this celestial queen who, the shadows are sort of permeating her mind, which is creating all this chaos throughout the world. And so she's banished by this sort of council into the wastelands, which is like the void, the netherworld. And through this character of the Ice Mistress, I feel like I'm able to channel that sort of agony or that sort of sorrow in not being heard, the not being heard aspect of the divine feminine, So I do feel like coming from storytelling or literature, really, like Alexandria was saying with sound, it's almost like you don't have the option if you can hear it or not, if it's playing. You can close the book and, okay, that essence is contained. Or something visual, that is very amazing, but that's for a split second. Where it's like sound, it's in your ears. You can't shut it off if someone else is playing it or you're in the airwaves. And so I think for me, really it's, just to channel this message of, being able to have fun with it and with the whole fantasy and the whole epic setting of everything, but also too with that sort of eye for that knowledge and that wisdom to come through in the stories and in the songs.
And I think it's great too, because you have the capacity to take your listeners, everybody that comes to hear you, if you play live or even if they get your CD, you have the ability to take them on a psychedelic journey of their own by listening to how you're portraying your message. And that's very powerful to have that ability. And I think just like people will use tarot cards, they'll use runes, your music has the ability to take everybody on their own psychedelic spiritual journey. And I think to have that talent is very rare. And I've seen some of the stuff again on Facebook, and I think you have the capacity to do that moving forward, and to just every performance or every song on every album, you can take the listener on a journey to far off dimensions. And wow, that's an accomplishment, and that's something that I think you should be very, very proud of. And I just want to ask a question. Do you use tarot cards on a regular basis? What are your thoughts on tarot cards? I always like to ask some of our guests, because I'm very vocal that I have a few decks, but it's not something that I use for divination regularly, and I don't like to knock things, but I just wanted to, what was your take on it?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked, because I should have mentioned it sooner, but I am a fortune teller, so I read tarot cards for my community. I do, whenever I first started, I was like, I do everything for free, and then, a friend of mine was like, hey, what do you need to start charging? You're really good, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I got to the point now where it's like, I will read for you, whether online or in person, over the phone. I've been able to just help people iron out their fates or their problems or whatever. Even like as far away as Ireland, being able to read for people. It's really an unfolding journey for me. Like finding all of the Kabbalistic and all of the, all of the Judaic sort of influences upon the tarot cards, the geometry, like everything within it, cannot be like put into one book. So right now I'm like pretty deep in study. I do have a Rider-Waite deck, but
Right.
actually I had taken them into the forest on Halloween night, actually.
Oh,
and,
wow.
had accidentally dropped them, and they got soiled with rain for about 2 weeks straight. So luckily, I do have a vintage Swiss deck that I had been needing to put more attention into. So whereas, the pictorial aspect of the Rider-Waite, now I'm like really trying to hone in on the numerology and the astrology of each card, and really just listening to a lot of other tarot readers out there,
Right.
and getting a lot of other people's takes and, their interpretations, because I don't think any one person is just the ultimate,
I recently I had this deck previously, but I misplaced it, and I picked up Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck, and I'm very, very impressed with Lady Frida Harris was actually the lady that actually, under the guidance of Aleister Crowley, did the paintings for each of the cards, and I was just blown away. I mean, she calls tarot cards the picture book of God, and it's just all these celestial things with these messages. But that deck, if you ever get a chance to get it, I would highly recommend it, because it has Kabbalistic symbols, it has Egyptian references. It's a very beautiful symbolic deck, and I'm quite impressed with that deck. I have a few. I have Egyptian oracle decks, but this Aleister Crowley was far surpassed my expectation on just the beauty of the paintings that Lady Frida Harris took upon herself. I think actually every single card is a masterpiece, and it really goes into more of again what Aleister Crowley with Thoth, Hermetics, and all that, because I'm a huge into the Hermetic codes. Thoth is my idol, and I mean, I've studied for years and years about Thoth and ancient Egypt, and if you can put this into perspective, at age 10 I had read the Egyptian Book of the Dead from cover to cover at age 10.
Oh, wow.
That was
nice.
Yeah, that was my reading, and I'm a rune reader, and to me, I mean, my heritage, I have Norse Celtic heritage, so runes to me are sort of in my spiritual tickle trunk of tools that I use for my divination purposes. And I find that runes are, I don't know if you're familiar with runes, but they're very, very accurate, and they've been around for a long time as inscriptions and symbols in regards to symbology. So that's what I use. But Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck is really, if you can get your hands on that, I would highly recommend it.
Nice, awesome. I have seen that the Thoth deck is very technical, and I enjoy that about those interpretations. And also, too, what I think is really interesting about the Thoth deck is the whole breakdown of the pages into the princes and the prince, the princesses and the prince. I just think that's amazing to, go ahead and take that androgynous page and to put it into masculine and feminine interpretation. I think that's pretty,
It's a hard thing to do and to make it visually pleasing, and like you said, I agree with you, it can be complicated, but once you really throw yourself in there and look at each card, study the symbolism, it all comes into place, and you realize, wow, this is a real powerful, the images and the symbolism that they're trying to get out there really tells a story that's like thousands and thousands of years old in regards to, the universe. I'm huge on, invoking the elements and all that in my ritualistic practice. I'm huge in regards to, the elements, everything that I do, and the guardians and all that. And I think it's just incredible. But if you can, that's one that I was just blown away by the presentation, and each card again is a masterpiece onto itself, and it takes you a while because there's so many hidden symbols, and it makes you evolve as a spiritual person. So I think that's great, and that you read tarot cards, that's awesome.
Awesome, thanks. And I am picky, like what you were saying in your trunk of divination. Me and my sister, I had introduced her to crystal healing, I want to say maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, and she delved deeper into it than I ever have. So we're actually becoming more of energy working partners, whereas now she's teaching me how to use the pendulums, and the other day she just balanced my chakra as I laid down, and she took her pendulum over my chakras, and it's like, wow, okay, who else is going to do this for me? Whereas I feel like learning these types of things, it's like, who else is going to do that for everyone else?
We're going to be doing events around Texas, and Alexandria is going to be performing or doing ruin readings for people. And
awesome.
Maybe you can stay in contact with her, and maybe y'all can meet up one day and she can do a ruin reading for you.
And I do, you're just talking about crystals too. I have a little drawstring pouch that I have I actually have a moonstone hand-carved crystal skull, and that guy goes with me everywhere. I have
oh wow,
I have awesome. To me, I have amber. I'm a practitioner of crystal, and I even got Timothy into carrying particular gemstones in his pocket when we go on investigations, because the more you learn about the power of specific gemstones, people are not aware that in Greek times and Roman times, amethyst was used to cure drunkenness. So all these particular gemstones have their own powers. We use sage a lot. I don't know if you sage for protection. We gather our own sage and dry our own sage, and then we use them in our cleansing processes. So really, the tools for everybody, it's just they're all around you, and it's just seeking like-minded people that can, and sharing the knowledge. That's what knowledge should be, free to share, but you have to be open to the possibilities of the positive energy that you can obtain from speaking to knowledgeable people. Like I said, I've given lectures on Druid and Celtic practices. I've been to Scotland several times to all these historic, the Isle of Skye, I've been there, and very potent spiritual places. And if you ever get a chance to go to Stonehenge, I'm telling you, just standing within those stones, the energy, you'll never feel that in your whole life. It's just absolutely, ley lines and all that kind of stuff that we've touched on other podcasts. There's so much around us, and we've got to just start being awake and just opening our eyes to the true possibility that's really out there.
That is amazing for you to bring up. I had just went to a psychic workshop last weekend in Wimberley, Texas. And the weekend before had been, I had went to the San Antonio Healing Arts Fair. So I feel like all these metaphysical festivals and fairs that are starting to pop up and gain more popularity, like what you're saying, to share knowledge. They were doing free seminars where, they were doing some the Qigong work. And so even just to be around all those vibrations even, to walk in a room full of crystals, I feel is like attuning your frequency, a little bit refining.
See, it's individuals like you and I that we are on the right frequency, and you have the capacity with your music to tune everybody else or tune all of your listeners into a great frequency, and you have the capacity to share your knowledge on what you're learning on your spiritual journey, and you have to be a teacher. That's amazing to have that medium at your fingertips to create works of art through sound to inspire people to maybe begin their own spiritual journey. I mean, to have that ability, I mean, you've come a long way, and just from speaking with you in this brief time, I can feel a like-minded energy source that you and I could probably have conversations for hours and just not realize the time, because we're in tune with the universe, and there's not too many topics that I don't think we could just start talking off the top of our head and each have some kind of input, and we learn something new every day, and I'm learning something from you, and I really must say that I appreciate that you've shared your knowledge and your ability to what you're doing to all of us, and I really must thank you for that, because like I said, we're all on a spiritual learning journey until we go into our next life force, and I think it's amazing. Thank you.
And I want to say that we are coming to the end of this podcast, and it seems like we didn't get out everything that we could have got out. It seems like we could have actually made a 2 or 3 hour podcast out of this just between y'all two. But what I would like to say, if you have an opportunity right now, if you have any websites or upcoming projects or gigs that you would like for people to hear, you can go ahead and say that right now.
Okay, awesome. I just want to go ahead and let you know, at Cosmic Eve Doom on Instagram and YouTube channel, you can find my music for free on there. Also, too, Doomed and Stoned. This is a great underground website that I write reviews for. I do interviews and film footage as well. So I would just like to invite everybody to check out Doomed and Stoned, check out Cosmic Eve, and thank you very much for your time, Timothy and Alexandria. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been good, and like I said, Alexandria and you can stay in touch, and maybe y'all can talk more about it, and we'll keep you posted on any gigs and stuff we have coming up.
We appreciate you taking the time, and like I said, I'm always open. Anytime you want to speak with me on any topic, I'm always open. Just drop me a message or anything. We can chat about anything. You have a question, knowledge is supposed to be shared, and like I said, I think you and I are like-minded people, and like I said, it was such a pleasure for you to take time out of your busy day to be on our podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You have a good one. Talk to you later.
All right, you do mine.
All right,
Bye.
Okay.
So that was Cosmic Eve, and so she does have music that is listening to her story really puts a different perspective on her music, huh?
Well, it just gives once you talk to people on a personal level, and it's always like, never judge a book by its cover. People think that people are a certain way. I get judged all the time because of my tattoos, and unless people start talking to me, they don't realize that there's a real interesting human being, and I think this is a prime example of that. This has given me a different perspective, and it's really I've met. Because
I think the first perspective that we had on her was that she was into doom metal, she was into paranormal, and then she was into like what you call risque type of stuff, right?
Well, I just wasn't sure because I wasn't very familiar with that genre of music. So again, we don't know what to expect, and we have misconceptions. But she's somebody that I could have conversations and say, let's go for coffee, or I have a question about this, and I would be very open. The communication would be so easy and would flow. It would be a real conversation with a real interesting human being.
So for people out there that's wanting to practice ceremonial magic, I recommend you going to our website, purchasing you some red brick dust mixture, that's been blessed, it's been through its own ritual. I would also recommend that you listen to Cosmic Eve's music during your ritual process, because it definitely takes you there, and hearing her story gives us a whole different perspective on who we thought she was. Is that right?
Right, and I think she's going to go a long way if she keeps going, being true to herself and the message that she wants to portray. I hope that, if she does have shows, that she continues with all these visual stimuli that she has in her show, because as a visual sensory is very, very important in magic, and I think if she continues the way she's going, she will go far, and she will she'll, just like we do in our podcast and our work, we try and educate people. She will educate people about ceremonial and ritual magic, and I think that's a gift, and she's willing to share that gift.
And we have to go because we have a lot of stuff to do today. So that's it for this episode, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on YouTube, it's only one of the media platforms that we use. We use Spreaker.com. We're on Tumblr. We're on iTunes. So, but if YouTube is one of the locations that you're using, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for all your so you can keep up with all the stuff that we're doing, right? Because we got awesome investigation videos on there. I recommend people going on checking out investigation we did called Room 118. Go check that one out. That's it. Bye.
Bye.